Lamine Yamal, I'm feeling really sorry for you. The season you're having is pretty terrible. I mean, first you lost the Ballon d'Or to Dembele. You thought it was meant for you, but nah. Then Mbappe took your girl, Esther Esposito. You were liking her pics on Instagram, but now she's dating your worst enemy. After that, Atletico Madrid eliminated you in El Copa del Rey. You thought that maybe in the second leg you could come back, but nah. And then they eliminated you again in the Champions League. You thought that maybe in the second leg you could come back, but no. And now you get injured. No, I mean, that's tough. That's a rough season. I mean, to be fair, that Champions League, it's not really Lamine's fault because, well, I told you in the previous video, Hansi Flick offensive football, well, I never believed it could work because in today's football, when you see how every teams are good at transitioning, of course, having a defensive line that high would create some trouble. I mean, maybe it could have worked out if you had better defender than Eric Garcia, Araujo, Balde. I mean, Cancelo is good, but Koundé is not good enough because, of course, you're gonna get counter at some point. And if you don't have defenders that are fast enough, well, it's hard to defend from behind. And if you make a foul and you're the last defender, well, of course, you're gonna get a red card. What do you expect, Andy? But still, with Raphinha not being injured, I think they could have won because they are that good offensively. But without Raphinha, I think Rashford, well, he's not back to his old self yet. He's still very insecure about his football. Sometimes he misses stuff that he would have scored back in the day. So I think that he needs to build up that confidence again, and maybe we're gonna see the old Rashford because he did show some potential by moments. He's just not consistent enough. And Lamine Yamal, well, he's still 18-year-old, so you know, that's a kid. He's not mature enough in his football. Sometimes he tries to play that hero ball, make the difference by himself, not play with his mates. And when you play against a defense that is as well structured as Atletico Madrid, it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. We saw it again, and on top of that, they provoked them before the game, so you know, you're just giving them more reason to be motivated. So you know, just not a good way to approach that game. You can do that LeBron stuff, you can do all that, even though I believe it's better to take Kobe as an example. But well, at the end of the day, just do it and don't speak up in the media. You don't need to say anything to the media, you can do that, but as soon as you talk to the media, well, it's game over, and that's what we saw. It was still a very good matchup, it was still a very good game to watch. Better than the Arsenal Sporting one because, well, that game was so boring. I mean, Arsenal is so disappointing. Arteta, we're not gonna keep talking about his privilege. I mean, now I'm pretty confident that it should be his last season because I don't see him win the Champions League. I don't know if he can win the Premier League. But, well, against Sporting, they could have shown something better against the weakest side in the Champions League. So yeah, not much to say about that game. Then we have the PSG-Liverpool game too. Well, PSG showed that they are still much better than these Premier League teams. I mean, at this point, I don't know why British people call the French League the Farmer League because the only team PSG struggled against was Monaco. And then since last season, they are the one farming this Champions League trophy against those Premier League teams. So well, I don't know why we call the French League the Farmer League, but you know, these days the Premier League teams are the one getting farmed by the French team, so well. And then we have the best games of that Champions League so far between Real Madrid and Bayern Munich. I mean, Real Madrid was impressive, to be honest. I mean, they didn't play an impressive football. That was too much to expect from them. But at least they took Bayern Munich as far as they could. I mean, Bayern Munich played a better game, but Real Madrid could have also scored more goals. They play with what they got because, well, the coach Arbeloa is still an interim, so don't expect much from him. The team is not well set up. I don't believe Vini and Mbappe can play together. Or, you know, if even they do, they will have to both be a lot more consistent and a lot more lethal because now they are doing too much mistakes and defensively they're not strong enough. At the midfield, it's still a little bit shaky, so you know, not a very good Real Madrid team, but Bayern Munich got into a lot of trouble. The second leg, they could have lost that one. I believe that the Camavinga red card changed the momentum in favor of Bayern Munich. And if it wasn't for that, well, it was looking very complicated for Munich. So, well, they still won that game. They were the better team, so nothing very surprising. Now, let's talk about this semi-final. To start, with Arsenal and Atletico Madrid, the Haram Ball derby between the two most disgusting teams of the season. I mean, Atletico Madrid has not been that disgusting in the second half of the season because since they brought in Ademola Lookman, they've been very interesting offensively. I mean, they are very good in transition. They're still the same strong defensive team that we've been seeing years after years. But now, offensively, they have more weapons. Griezmann has also been playing very good for his last season with Atletico Madrid. Very consistent. He's making a lot of difference offensively. Julian Alvarez has also been very good in that second half of the season. He didn't start as well, but now he's coming back to what we saw from him last season. So a team that is in a very good form now, even though they lost the Copa del Rey final against Sociedad and recently they lost a Liga game against Elche. I mean, La Liga is not really counting because, well, they are pretty sure to finish in the top 4 and qualify for the Champions League next season. So I don't think they are really competing for anything in La Liga, and against Elche they didn't line up the first squad. So they are pretty chill for the remaining games of the season. They will just have to focus on the Champions League and finish on a good note for Griezmann last season. Then Arsenal, well, the situation is a little bit more complicated. I mean, first they lost the final of the Carabao Cup against City, then they got eliminated from the FA Cup against Southampton, a team from Championship. Then they lost to Bournemouth in the Premier League and again to Manchester City. So now they are in a very complicated situation. In the Premier League, they will have to win most of the remaining games and hope that City lose some or at least do some draws, because other than that they could again fumble that Premier League trophy. So yeah, they have two championships to focus on, the Premier League and the Champions League. They're not playing a very good football, not a very secure football. I mean, they've been scoring a lot of goals on setup plays. Prior to that, now it's not working as well. It seems that team found out a way to counter that. Playing Atletico Madrid is also not the best matchup they could have hoped for. I think Barcelona would have been a better team for Arsenal because, well, Arsenal is a team that is playing a very British football, so very athletic, they run a lot, they are very physical. And against Atletico Madrid, that might be a little bit more complicated to play that type of football because Atletico Madrid is also very physical. They might not be as athletic as Arsenal because, well, there are a few teams that are as athletic as the Premier League team outside of England. But defensively, they are a lot more structured than Barcelona. And they can also score in transition. I mean, since they added Ademola Lookman, they are a lot more dangerous in transition, also on set pieces with Julian Alvarez. So a team that has different ways of scoring and can score even when the game is not favoring them. So not an easy matchup for Arsenal, and I believe that Atletico Madrid will qualify because, well, we saw in the Champions League in the past, it's not about how you start the tournament, but it's how you finish it. And right now, Atletico Madrid is on a better trend in that second half of the season. Even though they got destroyed by Arsenal in the league phase, I think it's a very different Atletico Madrid team. I also believe that's a game that could go to overtime or maybe even to the penalty session. And I expect Atletico Madrid to be better prepared because, well, they already lost once against Real Sociedad. I would be surprised if Diego Simeone let this happen again. So yeah, I got Atletico Madrid qualifying for the final. Then we have the most exciting matchup of that semi-finals, PSG against Bayern Munich. Well, same as Atletico Madrid, PSG is the team that is on the best trend of the two. I mean, Bayern Munich just won against Leverkusen and they were the most dominant team. On top of that, they also won the Bundesliga last weekend. So, well, it's hard to say that PSG is on a better trend because Bayern Munich is also looking very, very good. But PSG didn't start the season as well. I mean, they had to play Monaco in the Champions League in order to qualify to the round of 16. So it's a team that slowly improved and got better and better as the Champions League goes. Then they destroyed Chelsea, they destroyed again Liverpool, and they are coming pretty healthy against Bayern Munich, who has a lot of injuries. Leonard Carl is just coming back from injury and he should be ready for the PSG game. But then you have Gnabry who just got injured. Musiala who's not 100% fit, even though he's gonna play. It's not the best Musiala that we're gonna get. Then you have Olise, that is very good, very hyped these days. I really like Olise. I mean, that's a player that I've been following since he was playing for Crystal Palace. But what makes Michael Olise that strong is that he plays a very simple, very mature football. You know, he knows when to pass the ball, he can make the right pass, he can dribble, he can shoot, he often makes the right play, and that's what makes him very, very strong. But when you're not as well surrounded, it's a little bit more difficult to make a difference. I also believe that PSG has a much better defense than Real Madrid, because now he will have to face Nuno Mendes, who's better than Carreras and Ferland Mendy. So it's gonna be different for Michael Olise. But then on the other side, I don't believe we've seen the best version of Luis Diaz. So that's a player that we need to be careful about. He can score nice goals, he's a very clutch player, very similar to Raphinha. He's not always the most consistent, but he's the guy that is always gonna answer when you expect him to. So someone that we need to be careful about. Then they also have Harry Kane that we never talk about, but you know, he's still the great striker that we know since Tottenham. Where I think Bayern Munich is lacking is defensively. I don't like the way Bayern Munich defended against Real Madrid. They tried a lot of 1v1 with Upamecano. It worked out. They still took 4 goals, but you know, they managed to qualify. I don't know if that's gonna work against PSG. Kvaratskhelia has been very good recently. Then Dembele, well, we know what he's capable of. Same for Doué. Désiré Doué is a player that is performing very, very well in 1v1 situations.
I can do this all.
And Barcola on the bench is also a player that can use his speed and create a lot of opportunities. So I believe Bayern Munich will have to defend differently if they want to beat PSG, because offensively PSG is a bigger threat than Real Madrid. Even though I see PSG winning that game, that's a very close matchup. I mean, both semifinals are going to be very close and it could go either ways, but personally I see a final between PSG and Atletico Madrid.